Hey everybody, I'm Harrison Brooks, and I'm back reviewing some new music again. I know it's been a while since my last time out when I dug into Taylor Swift's Folklore and Evermore albums, but getting the Rona kind of threw me off a little bit, and it's been a bit of a process to get back on track. But here I am today, ready to listen to some more new music and dive into it. So, um, much like how I dove into Taylor switching genres from pop to folk, the artist I'm going to be talking about today also switched out of the pop genre, except she jumped into rock, which is you don't see too much anymore. So, of course, I'm talking about Miley Cyrus and her new rock album, Plastic Hearts. Just digging into Miley a little bit before we get going with the music. She's a super interesting artist when you think about it. I mean, insanely talented, no one can really deny that. Also, super popular, but she's never really been able to reach the heights that others have in the pop genre. Others like a Taylor Swift, even though she is just as popular in my opinion. But she started out as Hannah Montana on the Disney Channel. So she kind of had that country pop sound, especially growing up, the daughter of Billy Ray Cyrus. She's going to have some country influence. And then as she kind of grew out of the Disney phase, she quickly entered her rebellious phase. She kind of grew into a person that people were like, oh, wait, hold up. Like, aren't you supposed to be this, do no wrong Disney role model? And she's like, no, that's not me anymore. So that's when we got the twerk heavy bangers era, which was a lot of fun. And don't get me wrong, it produced some mega hits, but overall, the entire album in itself was kind of lacking outside of those two huge songs. And that trend kind of continued throughout her rest of her career, like through her EPs and albums. A lot of good hits, but as a collection, pretty underwhelming when you look at it all together. But that is until now, in my opinion. With Plastic Hearts, her pop rock album has few, if any, missteps. In my opinion, Miley, who has been looking for where she fits in the music industry for basically her whole career, has finally found it, and that's rock, man. So this album is kind of her coming out party in the rock genre, and she uses it to show she can do it all. Basically, she teams up with some very notable rockers to bring a mix of different styles to this album, and yeah, just kind of hey, you can do it, I can do it too, kind of thing. So yeah, let's get into it with the first song, "What the Fuck Do I Know." So yeah, I love this song. I think it's a very strong start to this album, and really sets the tone for the themes throughout. Basically, the song is an in-your-face shot at all of her critics over the years who have talked about her, racy clothing choices, how she should be more of a role model due to her Disney beginnings, and even her failed marriage to Liam Hemsworth. But she isn't that person anymore, and she grew out of that phase a long time ago. So, like I said, this is a great start to the album, not only because I think it's a great song, but also it sets the tone. A lot of what she talks about in the song pops back up in later songs. Um, so next up is the title track of the album, "Plastic Hearts," and right there at the start there, if you can hear it, with that funky little drum beat, that's paying homage to the Rolling Stones song "Sympathy for the Devil," which is pretty cool. I always love when they add little things like that to kind of show the respect to some of the greats out there. And on that note, this is the first example of many on this album of Miley basically looking the rock genre in the eyes and saying, whatever you can do, I can do too. I'm not scared to jump into this genre because I can do it all. Um, so again, this is another song where she kind of takes a shot at the music industry and LA specifically with the line "sunny place for shady people." That kind of beautiful weather, but people are cutthroat there and they're gonna use you as much as they can. So I like to think of this song as her breaking out of that kind of California dream that has people's heads up in the clouds. She's starting to see the world around her for how it is, the good and the bad. So yeah, and I just think the chorus really gives us a chance to get a feel for the new rock Miley. Her raspy, guttural voice really just adds another element to the lyrics, in my opinion. So third up is a little bit of a change of pace. It's a song called "Angels Like You." Um, we go back, we get brought down a little bit to a more of a slow melodic ballad that really shows off her range as a singer. She hits some higher points than she does in a lot of the other songs. And she tells the story of basically coming to terms with herself and accepting herself for who she is, and taking some responsibility and blame for those failed relationships, which is a little bit out of character for her, which I will talk about a little bit more as we keep going. But basically, this theme it comes and goes in this album quite frequently. The theme of how she's a taker, and she's been a taker in the past. Kind of knowing what she needs from someone, but not letting them get close enough for her to be what they need her to be. So, like I said, this specific theme comes back up specifically in song "Bad Karma" near the end of the album with Joan Jett. But I'll get there in a few minutes. But first, next up, we have "Prisoner," which featuring Dua Lipa, which is, I think, my favorite song on this album, and I'm sure it's one of the most popular songs. How can it not be when you have Dua Lipa featuring on it? So this song is about being a prisoner to the thought of someone and trying to find ways to replace or distract yourself from those thoughts. So, in my opinion, I think it was genius teaming up with Dua Lipa for this one. Not only because it's a great song, but it really highlights the genre shift for Miley specifically. Having the current queen of pop music and Dua Lipa singing right next to Miley Cyrus really lets her new rock sound show. That guttural, raspy voice I mentioned before is just such a stark contrast to the clearly pop sound of Dua Lipa. Nobody's going to listen to this song and be like, you're going to know who the pop singer is, and it's Dua Lipa, because, you're going to hear it and say, okay, that's Miley's got some rock in her, and Dua Lipa's kind of filling in the rest of what this song needs. So fifth up on this album is a song called "Gimme What I Want." It starts off a little darker vibes, a little kind of, you get that boss bitch kind of mentality, which I'm here for, which I love. Again, this is same theme of just taking what you want from a relationship and kind of not giving a shit about anything else. The line leading up to the chorus, "I don't need a future, I don't need your past, I just need a lover, so give me what I want or I'll give it to myself," which kind of really sums up the entire song perfectly. And actually here it's coming up right here, so hopefully you can hear it. So next up, this is "Night Crawling," featuring Billy Idol. And this is the second example of her paying tribute to other rockers while simultaneously showing that, like, hey, you can do it, I can too. So this song is another good song. Some real white wedding vibes, super powerful, and really just works well with Billy Idol. Yeah, that's it's just cool to think that she's not only trying to emulate people like Joan Jett and Stevie Nicks and people you'd think that she'd be comparable to. She's going to Billy Idol too and being like, what, I can do that too, and she's showing it here. So that's pretty cool. And so speaking of Stevie Nicks, though, so next up is the song "Midnight Sky." This is the first single released from this album, and it, like I said, drew a lot of comparisons to Stevie Nicks' "Edge of 17" with that disco pop sound. It drew so many comparisons, intentionally, I might add, that she made a collaboration remix of "Midnight Sky" and "Edge of 17" at the end of the album called "Edge of Midnight." So being the first song Miley released, I think, since Slide Away, a song about the end of her relationship with Liam Hemsworth, it really made this song her coming out party in the rock genre and the new shift in her mentality. I remember hearing on the radio all the time that's like, hey, whoa, have you heard the new Miley song? Like, it doesn't sound anything like what she's done before. And so it's cool to, the stark contrast between a song like Slide Away, which I really love, and this song. It just, she's shifting her genre as well as her mentality, which I think is all kind of summed up with that line there. I was born to run and don't belong to anyone. That's it. That's where she's at right now. Next up, another brings us down a little bit with another slower song. The rises and falls of this album are well done. Really keeps you engaged. You're rocking out 1 second and then you're chilling out and listening to the more melodic lyrical songs like this one. This one kind of, I've picked it out the first time I listened and I was like, this kind of has a bit of country vibes to it, some country rock vibes. It almost sounds like she is channeling her godmother and, country legend Dolly Parton, which I think is pretty cool. I don't really have much else to say about this song. Again, good song. I'll listen to it every time. I'm not going to skip over it. There's no real missteps on this album. And yeah, that change of pace, that rise and fall, came at a great time to kind of keep the listeners engaged. Next up is a song called Hate Me, which this one, in my opinion, slides back into the poppier sound a little bit, but it keeps the guitar and the drums, of course, because it's still a rock song on a rock album. But yeah, little bit less hard rock than some of the other songs. My favorite part about this song and how it's a little bit poppier than the rest of the album is the lyrics kind of talk about similar stuff to a song like Slide Away. So when you're comparing the lyrics, they're pretty similar, but then you put the two songs back to back, and then it's like, even though this is the most poppy sounding song on the album, it's like, well, there's no comparing it to Slide Away in terms of poppiness, right? It's still rock, even though it's a little more on the pop rock kind of side of things. Next up is a one I alluded to earlier with Joan Jett called Bad Karma. This is one of the top songs on this album, in my opinion. It carries over the themes that have been mentioned a couple times of being the taker in a relationship, taking what she needs. Then when they have nothing left to give, moving on to someone else. It's maybe not the best way to be, but the acknowledgement of this trait of hers definitely plays into the themes in the other songs, I guess, of kind of realizing the parts of her life that were forced on her and not right for her, and then making a change to something that works better for her. Actually, the story behind this song is actually pretty cool too. So she started writing it in her car on her way to work. She recorded a bit of it, but then forgot about it for a while. And then her producer, Mark Ronson, played it for her one time and was like, hey, like, you remember this? This is probably the most Miley song of all time. And that's when she started thinking, if there's one person that can own this song more than me, it's Joan Jett. So what does she do? She goes out and gets Joan Jett to come on and sing a verse on the song, because Joan Jett's the person that kind of instilled that badass attitude in her with songs like Cherry Bomb. And yeah, so that's pretty cool. It kind of just came out of nowhere and just completely natural process to making the song. And she even had Joan Jett out at the Super Bowl pregame show where she sang, and so that was cool to see. This is definitely one of my favorite songs on the album, and specifically because it shows some insight into her own beliefs, which do incorporate some Buddhism, and karma, and stuff like that. She does believe in that kind of stuff, but I love how the song is saying, like, I don't care about bad karma. Bad karma is not going to stop her. She'll just do whatever she wants. and think about it later, or leave the repercussions for her and her next life, which could be seen as reckless from a Buddhism standpoint, I guess. But, a really good look into Miley herself and how she operates and how she thinks, and just the attitude that she has when she approaches her profession. So we're getting down to the last couple original tracks on the album, and again, kind of brings us down a little bit after that harder, fast-paced song with Joan Jett. We get this one called "Never Be Me," second last original track. Another great example of how the rise and falls can be effective on an album. She starts this one off with a little tribute to one of her idols, Johnny Cash, with the line, "I walk the line, I play with fire." Again, that's pretty cool. I mentioned that earlier, how I love when, artists do that. They kind of pay a little tribute to someone who has influenced them. But really, this song is just about how she is discovering her real self, and that person that she used to be, that tried to conform to what everyone else in her life wanted her to be, but it was just never going to be her. She kind of left that part of her behind. So while it's not my favorite song on the album, I think it's one of the best at actually explaining Miley, who she is, and the recent growth and change in direction in her life. And bringing us to the last original track. It's called Golden G String. And much like Never Be Me, it's not my favorite track, but it's a great closer as it kind of sums up the album perfectly. It fits the same themes that I've been talking about before, while at the same time taking shots and shining some light on some of the music industry in LA's flaws. I like that she basically says in this song, LA, the music industry, it's kind of a fucked up place, it's a fucked up industry. I should leave, but I'm not going to. I'm going to stick around for a while. Just that acceptance of the chaos around her, but the understanding of how to kind of control it and live in it is kind of inspiring in a way, I guess. It kind of reminds me of the end of Get Him to the Greek, if you've ever seen that movie. He battles so much pain for so long and so much questioning where he is in the music industry. And then right at the end of the movie, he kind of, he should go to the hospital, but he kind of realizes, you know what, I don't care. I love it. I love what I do. This is my life, and I love it. And so that's kind of what I get from this song from Miley. I feel like she kind of has that same realization where, yeah, I've been criticized about everything. I've been, this and that. I've had people come at me for so many things. I've had all these, failed relationships that people criticize me for. But, this is just the world that I'm living in. And, I'm gonna do my best because, I'm here and this is what I love to do. So I'm gonna make it work for me. Like I said, these were the last two original tracks on the album. Of course, there are some, I guess, bonus tracks at the end there. I felt like they were a little unnecessary, as, the whole album kind of proved that she can do the whole rock thing. But then she adds a couple covers of Heart of Glass by Blondie and Zombie by the Cranberries, as well as the mashup of Edge of 17 and Midnight Sky that I mentioned earlier. But, she did her tributes. She made her point. She showed everyone that she can do it. I don't think the covers were necessary, but at the end of the day, it's kind of one more just last. Hey, I can do this one too. So that was kind of what she what she was trying to accomplish with this album, I think, and she did it. And she just added a couple of bonuses there at the end. But before I wrap up this video, there's something kind of just interesting that I've been thinking about a lot lately, and that I've noticed with fans of different genres of music, specifically rock and country fans. Country fans will often say, oh no, that song's not country, and I'll question, I'll be like, well, what do you mean by that? Do you hear the lyrics? It's clearly a country song, and they'll be like, yeah, but it sounds poppy, it sounds like a pop song. So, a good example of this is the song These Days by Mackenzie Porter, where the lyric goes, I'm thinking about those days, these days, thinking about a 98 Chevrolet. I hear that and I'm just like, that's country right there. You can't really tell me that it's not, but to country fans, there isn't that twang, there isn't that country sound, right? So even though the lyrics are talking about 90% of what every other country song also talks about, they won't accept it as country. But then with rock fans, it's a little different, where it doesn't really matter the sound of it. They just treat rock like it's this exclusive club that you have to like earn a membership into over multiple years and multiple albums. So a good example of this, before I get into how Plastic Hearts connects, I guess, is the song "Blow" by Ed Sheeran, Bruno Mars, and Chris Stapleton. If you heard it, you know what I'm talking about. It's kind of a hard rock song by two pop artists and a country artist. And rock fans will just not admit that it's a rock song, which is shocking to me because I don't know how you can listen to that song and be like, oh, yeah, this is pop, or I don't even know what they think it is. But when I ask people about it, specifically rock fans, I'm like, hey, well, you like this song, right? It's played on all the rock stations. They'll be like, yeah, but it shouldn't be. Well, how? Tell me how. Like, explain to me why that song "Blow" isn't a rock song. And I've never gotten a response. I've never got a real reason other than it's Ed Sheeran and Bruno Mars. So Plastic Hearts is kind of an example of this, where it doesn't seem to matter that there's that drum and that bass and that guitar and everything that encapsulates the rock sound in her songs, because they see Miley Cyrus and they think, oh, this is just pop. And I've been in arguments with people about this, defending Miley's album being included in the rock charts, and just like explain to me, what does she need to do for this to be considered rock? And she's got the voice, she's got the drums, got the guitar, it's all there. She collaborates with a lot of notable rockers, pays tribute to others. She emulates sounds and styles of everybody in the genre, basically. But it still isn't enough for people because it's Miley Cyrus. So it's just interesting to me that for country, it has everything to do with sound and nothing to do with lyrics. For rock, it has nothing to do with sound or lyrics, and everything about just this exclusive club of rockers that you have to earn your way into. But I mean, the way I see it is this kind of made up exclusivity by fans is actually part of what is killing rock and roll. Instead of arguing why Miley Cyrus isn't rock, you should acknowledge that, yeah, this is her first step into the genre. It's not, this is her showing that she can contribute to rock and roll. Because if one of the most well-known and popular artists on the planet is serious about this new sound of hers, she's going to help reinvigorate rock. She'll bring more fans who will hear her music and then discover the Cranberries and discover Stevie Nicks and discover Pat Benatar and Joan Jett and Billy Idol. And that's a good thing for the genre. So, I mean, last words here. I mean, just stop fighting it and just accept that Plastic Hearts is a rock album. Miley Cyrus is a rock artist, and a good one at that. So thanks for listening, and hopefully I'll see you again when I cover Man on the Moon 3 by Kid Cudi. So have a good one. Thanks for listening. Bye.